Hello, I'm Gyles Brandreth, and this is a special Lenten episode of Rosebud. And today the guest is the 105th Archbishop of Canterbury, Winston Welby. He resigned in 2024. This is his story, though, from the very beginning. Rosebud with Winston Welby. Justin Portal Welby. Is that the right name?
It's certainly a name I like to use.
The portal bit's a bit of a surprise. What's that?
That's my mother's maiden name.
Very good.
And comes from a line of business people on one side, Portal's paper, banknote paper. Unfortunately, that was the other side, so the money went the other way.
Never mind.
And well, it's easy for you to say. And the other one was sort of military, civil service, that kind of thing.
Well, a portal is also a doorway.
It's a doorway,
So
and
this-
it's portal. They're Huguenots.
Good. Well, this is a doorway to your story, and I want to begin it with my very first question. Justin Portal Welby, born on the 6th of January, 1956.
Absolutely.
Hammersmith?
Queen Charlotte's, yes.
Yes, it was Hammersmith.
Yes, everyone. I mean, it was just a baby factory. 3 of our children were born there.
Good. So, what, Justin, is your very first memory?
It's going to sound very pretentious. I was staying with my mother, which I did occasionally, and she said, we're going out to tea, and with someone who I used to work for. So I said, I was about 5, 1961, and we walked down Church Street onto High Street, Ken, and along to High Park Gate and down High Park Gate, and had tea with Sir Winston Churchill, because she'd been his personal secretary for 6 years. And I just remember a very old man, and when I saw him, he cried, so I cried. And then I gave him my favorite toy, which was a little model of an aeroplane. And then we sat down and had some tea.
And had your mother told you he was a great man? Did you realize you were meeting somebody special?
No, it was just going to tea with someone.
We've had some remarkable first memories. I think this could be taking the biscuit. It's a fantastic first memory.
It was yes. And I then, 4 years later, he died in January 1965. And at school, I'd just gone to boarding school. At school, they closed down the school for the morning. They got television sets in, and we all watched the funeral. And I remember the commentator, probably a Dimbleby.
I think it was.
I must have been.
I think it was Richard Dimbleby. Yeah.
Saying, some people remember this, some people will even be able to say, I met him. And I thought, oh, that's me.
Oh, lovely.
So I remember those. So Churchill, yes.
Well, that's a great first memory. We have to unpack that. Who is this mother of yours that you stayed with occasionally? That was an amusing reference, or did you only stay with her occasionally?
I stayed with her occasionally.
Who was she?
Her main name was Jane Portal. She was born in Meerut in India in 1929. And she grew up in India, and then during the war in England with her uncle, who was called Rab Butler, another politician.
That was her uncle?
Yes, her mother's brother.
My goodness. I mean, Rab Butler, for people of my generation, was a huge figure.
Yes.
He was the person who had held every post, every Secretary of Stateship you could, short of being Prime Minister. He'd done the lot.
And he was acting Prime Minister for about 2.5 years. Yeah. I remember him quite well. I got to know him in due course. And he was a sort of almost father to my mother, because her parents were in India and couldn't get back to England for a while. So she lived with Rab, and they went to school, to a convent school. And then in 1949, she applied for, went and got a job as Churchill's personal secretary, one of them, when he was leader of the opposition, and stayed there till April 1955. And then in 1955, she eloped with someone called Gavin Welby.
Mm-hmm.
And they got married in the States. I don't know why. And the marriage didn't last at all, really.
Why did she elope? Because she's comes from an establishment family.
Exactly.
Pucker people. It's not the sort of thing you do.
I know. I don't think she often did the sort of thing you do. She was drinking very heavily. And the night before she eloped, she went out to dinner with the deputy private secretary, a guy called Anthony Montague Brown, who was an RAF hero, DFC, all this sort of thing. And she went out to dinner, and one thing led to another. She eloped she was very worried about eloping. She eloped the next day. The marriage didn't last, and she fell pregnant, as they say. She assumed, quite reasonably, that was the result of the honeymoon.
Yeah, the wedding night with Gavin Welby.
The wedding night with Gavin Welby. And that was what we all assumed until 2016, when Charles Moore at the Daily Telegraph discovered DNA. We, with my agreement, did a DNA test and proved that my father was Anthony Montague Brown, not Gavin Welby. So the marriage didn't last. He was very complicated and drank, and she was drinking.
Can I ask what they saw in one another? You think Gavin and your mother?
You can ask, but I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, he was good looking. He was very, very, very clever. He was quite an adventurer. He told a very good story, which was often untrue.
I heard about him, believe it or not, many years ago.
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
Rachel Kempson, the wife of Sir Michael Redgrave. I was lucky enough to know the Redgraves.
Indeed. Yeah.
And I heard his name because there was the possibility of him, I think, marrying their daughter Vanessa.
That is true.
And Rachel had worries about Vanessa anyway, because of her political views. She felt she was damaging her career. And his name came up as another reason for being anxious about Vanessa.
Yes, I don't think it reduced the worries.
But he had charm, clearly.
He had charm, clearly. He was a networker, made friends.
And all your life, he was your dad.
Yes, he was. And he stopped drinking for quite a while and then started again when I was 12, which, funnily enough, was the year my mother stopped drinking. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and that was the good place, the happy place.
So in a way, much of your parenting was done by your grandmother, you would say, in retrospect.
Yes, and boarding school, yes.
But just to conclude on your parents, Gavin Welby, how was he as a father? I mean, or you don't now, in a sense, you've now been released from thinking of him as a father. But until 2016, he was your dad.
And he thought he was my dad. Until I was 10, 11, something like that. To me, he was good and affectionate. To my mother and grandmother, he was abusive and aggressive. And really, from the age of 12, when I was 12, he had a stroke. And until he died 7 years later, I think it was, 9 years later, 1977 he died, I think. He was very complicated to live with. He could be wonderful, but also he could be very, very abusive.
Give me your best moment with him. Something sweet. Something good that we can remember.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking this earlier because I thought you might ask that. One of the good moments, I think, was travelling with him. He loved to go to France. He spoke fluent French. And we'd go in the summer and go to a hotel, and I'd swim and he'd get me swimming lessons. I learned to swim, and traveling with him and chatting and getting to know him was lovely.
And I imagine he turned up they parted when we were about 3, didn't they?
They divorced when I was 3. I can't ever remember them
Together as a couple.
Yeah, I think they parted very swiftly indeed.
I assumed he turned up occasionally on birthdays.
Oh, no, I lived with him. He had custody.
Oh. So at the divorce, when you're 3 years of age, there is a formal divorce. In those days, it was a complicated legal matter.
It was.
And he wanted custody.
Yes.
And because of your mother's erratic behaviour and drinking,
probably,
he was given custody.
Yes.
So your dad brought you up, really, and then you had lots of visits to your grandmother, your mother's mother.
Absolutely, who lived on the north coast of Norfolk, which was lovely.
So this explains why you say occasionally you stayed with your mother. That all falls into place. But you were there Christmas? Was there a family Christmas?
Yes, but not a very comfortable one.
Can you give me the worst of the family Christmases?
I think probably, I can't remember when it was. My mother couldn't cope with seeing him. He was drunk the whole Christmas. There was no food.
I mean, no food for Christmas?
No, I managed to go find a couple of bits of bread and had a sandwich.
You managed to find, so you're about 10 or 11 at this time?
Something like that.
And you're literally roaming around the kitchen saying, I've got to eat something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's some bread, and maybe there's a bit of ham in the fridge, and we can put that together.
Yes, I think it was jam, actually.
Gosh.
And I remember sitting in the window and looking out and seeing lots of people in families. I just thought, well, lucky them. That would be nice.
And what was your mother like at this time? She was clearly drinking. What is the source of this? You must have brooded about. What made her have this life?
Suspect, and remember, when I was 12, she went into a mental hospital for 6 months and came out not drinking and never drank again.
Wonderful.
Went to AA and Alcoholics Anonymous and all this. And I think she would say it was something to do with separation from her parents in the war. But her sister didn't drink. I think alcoholism and substance abuse, dependency, gambling, whatever, addictions are very strange things because they're partly in the mind, and one wonders if they're also partly in the body. I don't know. I've never heard a really good explanation for them. There probably is one.
Once she was sober, did she seem to you to be a different person? Or
Completely different. She became a Christian and started going to church. And suddenly the position was flicked around from years and years when I rather dreaded seeing her because it was so unpredictable and difficult, through to years and years when that was much the easier parent to be with.
It's difficult now to put in your head what you felt at the time. But can you try to conjure up for us how you, age 10, 11, feel about this strange family setup? You're living with your dad. Your mother, is wayward. You occasionally see her. You have a nice grandmother. What are you thinking in your head about your place in the world in relation to your family?
Oh, I just thought this is what life is like. I do remember that because I've often thought about that. Children react in very, very different ways to things, as you know. And my reaction, I had no brothers or sisters that I knew of at the time. I just sort of thought, well, in the words of Mr. Rumsfeld, stuff happens. I didn't put it like that, but that was my response, that life is easier or more difficult, but that's the way of the world, and feeling sorry for yourself doesn't help very much.
And I assume that you were brought up as a normal Church of England boy, but you weren't particularly spiritually aware as a child.
No, we were what a later vicar called submarine Christians. So we'd surface once a year, at Christmas.
Very good.
Yeah, and then we stopped surfacing ever. And we stayed below the surface. And apart from at school, when I had chapel morning and evening, 7 days a week.
Well, tell us about school. You're first of all living clearly in London with your father.
Yes.
This is, and just getting on with life. You go to a nursery school or something?
I went to a nursery school, which I hardly remember, and then to a pre-prep school called Gibbs.
Oh, yes.
Which doesn't exist, I don't think now, but I may be wrong. And then to a prep school in Seaford called St. Peter's, which certainly doesn't exist any longer.
What was it like?
Do you know you would, I'm sure you know, the John le Carré books. And the second one of the Smiley trilogy, An Honourable Schoolboy.
Yeah.
One of the characters there is at a boarding school teaching. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
It was like that. I mean, it was like every boarding school.
Every story of those prep schools, and there was the mixture of the good masters and the slightly appalling masters.
There was a mixture of the good masters and the appalling masters. I remember never being warm in the winter.
Did you make friends? Did you have friends at school?
Yes, none that I've particularly kept up with or kept up with me.
Did you feel a bit of a loner at school?
Not consciously at my prep school, but yes, I did a bit. Yes, actually, I did.
Who did you talk to? Was there a matron or somebody that...
There was a nice matron, but I didn't talk. I don't think I immersed myself in books. There was a good school library with lots and lots of sort of, all the books of the era of John Buchan and all that. So I just immersed myself in every single book I could find. I do remember they had a collection of bound volumes of Punch going back into the late 19th century. And I read my way through those. I was a very fast reader. And I loved reading.
Very good. So this is the beginning of the era of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, but you were immersing yourself in Punch from the 1890s.
Well, something like that.
We're getting a flavour of the child that is developing.
Well, yes, quite.
And then you were sent to Eton. Had Gavin Welby been at Eton? Why was he?
No, but he wanted me to go, and he put me down there, and
he
I passed.
And you got in. And was that a good experience?
Yes, there were a lot of good things there. There were quite a lot of normal things that were less good, but there were a lot of good things. It was safe and secure, and nobody was, drunk most of the time. And I led a life of undistinguished mediocrity there. I was in the middle of everything. I almost failed all my exams and got chucked out once. And then I pulled myself together and sort of clawed my way up to the sort of middle ranks.
And did you feel safe because you were in the middle of everything? Is that the reason you think you didn't try to...
No, I just wasn't very applied.
Sport?
Oh, no.
No?
I mean, I can't kick a ball to save my life.
So you get safety and security and home life in a way at school and through your grandmother.
Definitely through my grandmother.
But school gives you...
And school was a good place, yeah.
It was a better place.
Rails along It gives me rails, yeah, which I trundle at a moderate speed.
What's the best moment of your years at Eton? The thing you think, oh, yeah, that was rather good.
Oh, that's easy. Being involved in the theatre there. Not as an actor, but as a stage manager and that kind of thing. And being involved in productions of Richard III. After we'd finished our Oxford and Cambridge entrance exams, we did a leavers play, which was The Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui, which was
by Brecht.
By Brecht. And that whole term was a superb term.
And can you remember from that time a dark time at all? Was there ever... Picture your head on the pillow in your... Did you have single rooms? Or
we did.
Yeah,
we had a nice single room.
Picture your head on the pillow, going to sleep, the worst night, a lonely night, an unhappy night.
Again, very easy. It was the previous term. during my A-levels. And my father was going through a particularly complicated period of drinking. And all the way through my A-level exams, every morning, there would be a 10 to 15 page letter in my pigeonhole telling me how ghastly I was and how ghastly my mother was, and my grandmother, and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And what did you make of this? Did you read the letters, or did you abandon them?
No, I read them. I just thought, well, it's life. I mean, but it was very miserable.
Did you try to reply saying, "Dear Dad,
No.
you've got this wrong"?
No.
And that probably just fueled his...
Well, I did reply later, and then the following year, and then just got another barrage.
I mean, you're 16, 17, this is happening.
17, yes,
18.
17, yeah.
Did you think, should I help? Did you talk about it with the housemaster or somebody?
I did try and talk about it. The housemaster, I think, knew. What I didn't know was Eton was paying my fees at that point.
The school was, because they were
They didn't
Gavin
turn up,
and
they
your mother
didn't want
just...
to chuck me out.
Well, that was very decent of them.
I mean, seriously, I am more in their debt for that than I could possibly ever thank them for. I mean, I think that showed some real generosity and compassion, because they didn't anticipate I'd ever make anything of myself. So, it wasn't investment in brains. That was certainly the case.
Did you talk to your grandmother?
I did talk to the chaplain. No, I didn't talk to my grandmother. I did a little bit, but not
Properly.
not properly, because he was doing the same thing to her.
God.
And I thought she had enough on her plate.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talked to the chaplain, and what did he say?
I think he was very nice indeed. I think he did get in a court-old cousin. And
A court-old cousin of yours?
yes, through my mother.
Fine.
And he was very nice, but I think he knew what was going on. I think most people in the family did. And they could do very little apart from be nice and sympathetic.
Later in life, pastoral care became part and parcel of what you did. What would you now advise if a 17-year-old boy was in the position you were in at boarding
Golly,
school? How would
what
you
a
help?
question.
How would you help them, given what you've
Now,
learned
that's
since?
a really fascinating question. I think there are two things. First of all, I would make sure, I mean, there's a number of things, this comes out of my safeguarding experience. I'd make sure there was someone else with me and not just do it alone, a woman ideally. I would make sure that, you said boy, that he knew that he could say absolutely anything. But I would say to him, if I think you're in danger, of being abused, I'm going to have to report it. And you must understand that, for your own sake and for the sake of other people who might also be in danger. But then, having got those things in place, I think I would want to explore with him what the possible ways of handling this were. Where was a place of refuge? Where did he feel safe? How much could he go there? What could I do to support him if it had a bad effect on his work and on his, which is always a huge worry at that age. If I fail my A-levels, what am I going to do is one of the things. And say to him, now, how can I help you with this? How can I do something that will encourage you to know that life will be all right?
So you're helping the boy that is you, but you're not trying to intervene with your parents because you feel they were beyond hope at that stage. And
I think what I would have said to him is this something that if I talk to your house tutor and one of us engages with your dad, do you think we'll be able to help? And my answer at that age would have been, under no circumstances, because I just didn't think there was anything that would make a difference.
Did you blame yourself at all? Did you think...
Oh, inevitably.
Yeah.
I was told it was my fault a great deal.
By your father, by
Yes.
Gavin.
Yeah.
But your mother wasn't communicating much until...
Well, once she come off the bottle, yes, she was. And she got married again in 1977, and in a very happy marriage.
Good.
Which lasted till 2019 when my stepfather died.
So her story ends happily.
Her story ended immensely happily.
And you had three parents, really. You had Gavin Welby, you had your mother, Jane Portal, and you had the assistant private secretary, the deputy private secretary to Winston Churchill, whose name was, say it again?
Anthony Montague Brown.
Anthony Montague Brown. So you are actually the son of Anthony Montague Brown.
I am.
What happened to him?
Well, this man used to come and see me from very occasionally. I probably met him half a dozen times.
Did he have an idea in the back of his head?
No idea. I was a child.
Yeah.
You know.
But your mother never said anything about it.
No.
Because she was alive when the news broke.
Yeah. And she said she didn't remember. She said, I must have been so drunk I didn't remember, which is quite likely.
Oh, gosh. So it had been conceived in a drunken stupor.
Yes, that's right.
But at least it was by one of the, it was the secretary and the deputy private secretary to Sir Winston Churchill. That's something. Given you come from an establishment type family, I think it's not a bad start.
If you're going to be, yes, Yes, it caused a stir in 2016. I remember saying, when it all became public, and that's the first I'd heard of it, I remember saying to the head of our comms team, communications team, press relations, oh, come on, nobody's going to be that interested. And she said, we're in the middle of the Brexit campaign. No newspaper has had any news to report except Brexit for about 2 months. This is a story made in heaven.
It is literally made in heaven.
Yes.
The Archbishop of Canterbury finds a new father.
Absolutely.
It's absurd. It's incredible. After a one-night stand, it's just phenomenal.
It just hits every button.
But was he quite distinguished?
From what I've read and understood, he was absolutely loyal to Churchill until Churchill's death in 1965. And I think that meant that he couldn't possibly have progressed very much in the civil service.
Because he gave his life to Churchill.
He gave his life to Churchill and served him honourably and beautifully. And I think, I look at that and I think, gosh, what an extraordinary thing to do and how rare a virtue that is.
He got married himself?
He was already married when he had the one I stand with my mother. He got divorced a little later and then married again and stayed married to his second wife.
So he had other children?
Yes.
Who are now your half-brothers and sisters?
No, there's only one, and that's a half-sister.
Mm-hmm. And you've met her now?
Oh, yes.
You like her?
She's lovely.
Are you similar? Do you see similarities?
Not hugely. But she is lovely.
Once you knew who your real father was, did you begin to look at photographs of him and sort of... Did it intrigue you? Were you relieved, in fact, in a way, to find that this Gavin... Well, given Gavin Welby's problems, it might almost... No?
I just thought, well, there's another strange thing. I thought, life isn't boring. It was very much the same. As I said, as a child, it didn't occur to me to be relieved, depressed, excited or anything. I just thought, well, there's a thing.
By the time you discover this, you are Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yes.
And so prayer is part and parcel of your life, and people pray in very different ways.
Yes.
Was part and parcel of your form of prayer then that you would actually talk to God or think your thoughts through, laying them out before God?
Yes.
This strange experience.
Absolutely.
Could you describe a little bit of what you did?
Oh, gosh. It was a throwaway line, and then it ended up being the centerpiece of what I said, is my identity is not found in DNA, but in who God knows I am. God understands me at an even deeper level than DNA, and knows me and loves me, and has known since the beginning of time that this was me. It was saying to God, you know who I am at levels and depths so far below, deeper than anything I know, and that Jesus Christ loved me and died for me and saved me as I am, not how anyone else thinks of me or how I think of myself.
Okay, you're giving me the fact now that you have 4 parents. And I'd like you to tell me, with each one, we've got to ask,
I've often thought that.
what you have now that you got from your parents. What did Jane Welby give you that you have today?
Jane Welby, née Portal, gave me love, support, goodness, huge sense of humour once she was sober.
And do you think of those characteristics, which is the one that is strongest in you? How is Jane manifested in you today?
You're saying, I mean, apart from my striking good looks.
Yeah.
That's just passed swiftly over there.
Yeah, I was thinking that you got those from Gavin, except clearly you didn't.
No, I didn't. Absolutely not.
But maybe it's your sense of humour. I mean,
I think it's my sense of, I think what it is above all is something I didn't say, but I'm thinking aloud really, is a deep, deep belief in the possibility of redemption.
what does redemption mean?
It means obviously literally buying something back that you've pawned or something like that.
To redeem something.
To redeem, it means however bad things are, that there is always the possibility of change. Gavin, I think, well, I learned how to play bridge quite well from him. He was a professional gambler at one point.
Oh, marvellous.
And he was encouraging to me. You know, he believed I could do things. And then if you're talking about parents, my grandmother just brought me up to know that I was cared for and loved, and was generous, and brought me up to love history. And when I was with her, I'd sit in the house in Blakeney on the coast in winter with the wind howling round the house from the North Sea and read her endless store of Kipling books and others. And then who else? Anthony Montague Brown obviously gave me my DNA and my genetics and all kinds of good things. And then God is the ultimate loving and protective Father whose Son brings me to know the deepest source of love and hope in the worst possible circumstances.
Yes, because God is the first real father you had.
And the only infallible one.
Very good. That you can rely on. When you were this teenager, in the middle at Eton, comfortably in the middle, but you're going to apply for Cambridge, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
What was in your head, your ambition? What were you going to be? You're surrounded by people burning with ambition.
They were. It was certainly never to be Archbishop of Canterbury. In the moments where things were going slightly better, I thought I very much wanted to be a politician at one point. I've always loved politics. I was brought up with politicians.
Of course.
You know, politics surrounded and immersed.
Exactly.
Gavin was a Conservative Party candidate twice.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't really begin to think seriously about it till I was at Cambridge.
What college?
Trinity.
And what did you read? One of these funny
I
combined
did
subjects?
2 years of law.
Ah.
And then the law faculty and I decided that this was a very bad idea by independent but unanimous consent. And so I then did history with a lot of economic history, colonial history, modern decolonization history.
And when did you have your first crush? your first moment?
Gosh.
Were you at university or
No.
school?
I was at school. It was someone I knew sailing.
Oh, from the holidays? Or
Yes.
Oh, what fun. And was that fun?
No.
No, I'm sorry.
Because I was too nervous to say anything.
Oh, it was unrequited, really. Was it?
Good heavens, yes, it was private.
Oh.
There's nothing. Oh,
Well, no, I feel no.
It's just silly teenagers.
Well, I know, but I was a silly teenager once, and so I'm feeling for you. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's very kind of you.
Well, no, but I am feeling for you. So when was your first romance?
It was in 1975 in the, wait a second, 70, when did I go up? Cambridge, 76 in the autumn term.
So you're 20.
I was 20, and it continues to this day, and it's called My Wife.
Oh, how wonderful. So describe the moment you first see her across a crowded quadrangle or in the boating shed.
Chance would be a fine thing.
Where did you first see her?
Well, it is worth putting in context that at that point at Cambridge, there were 10 men for every woman.
Of course, different world, wasn't it?
Different world. And Trinity had no women at that point.
Yeah.
And our vicar, lovely, lovely man called Sandy Miller, at a church called Holy Trinity Brompton, said, there's a girl just gone up to Newnham, and she's come to faith very recently. I wonder if you could look her up. So I dropped a note round saying, would you like to come to supper on Sunday evening? So she accepted, duly appeared, and so she was the one woman. There were 10 men there. And we went off to church that evening after supper, and there we went.
You mentioned Holy Trinity Brompton, Sandy Miller. Of course, people who don't know about all this, some people immersed in it, will know this is the evangelical,
Flagship.
Exactly. I didn't realize that faith was important to you in that way at that stage. I thought
It wasn't until I was 19.
So how do you discover this at 19? Is it through HTB?
No.
No, fine.
When I was 18, I was teaching in Kenya. That was a really happy time.
This was your gap year.
Gap year. And from January to July of that year, I was teaching up in a what they call the Harambee school, and Harambee was Swahili for self-help, is Swahili for self-help. And they were schools supported by the local community, so no resources. And for the first time, I met people for whom God was not a philosophical concept in which I had very little interest, but was someone who you could know and who should be at the center of life. And when I came back to England, I ran a mile from all that for the first year. And then at the beginning of my second year, through a friend, came to faith when I could run no further.
You say came to faith. What does that mean in terms of, you'd gone to church, as a submarine-like, you knew it all.
I didn't know it all, that was the point.
No, but you forgive me, you knew the superficial bits.
Yes, I had read the Bible, because there are only 2 books in the house in Kenya. One was the New English Bible.
But the Bible you read from beginning to end?
Yes.
From Genesis to
Revelations.
My goodness.
With complete incomprehension for much of it. I mean, try reading Leviticus by a gas pressure lamp late on, on an evening in a wood hut with the rains just starting. I mean, it sounds like something out of Somerset Maugham.
At the end of it, though, you come to faith.
No, well, I realized that God sort of seemed, I don't know how to put it, but seemed to be around a lot. And I started praying a bit. And the person who I shared a house with prayed a lot. And then at the beginning of my second year at Cambridge, I mean, it's the classic, sinner's prayer of saying, I think it was something as eloquent as, God, I'm not sure that you exist, but if you do, I would like you to be in charge of my life.
Did you say that out loud or in your head? You say that?
I said it out loud. I was with someone else. I felt very embarrassed.
And from that moment, that is a kind of coming to faith. You're committing yourself.
I was committing myself, and I was aware that something had changed. And much as on many future occasions I tried to run away in different directions, that presence of God wasn't always sort of tangibly present, but I couldn't get away from it.
And when you met Caroline, she'd already come to faith herself, had she?
Yes.
So that was something you had in common.
We had that in common.
And you quickly decided we are for each other. I mean, how quickly did you decide we're going to get engaged?
Oh, I decided, oh, good heavens. I didn't think that. But I decided, as far as I remember, almost instantly.
And why? What was it she had?
She's very beautiful.
Ah, well,
You know,
why not?
when you're
20?
20, that matters a great deal. It matters. She was very beautiful. She has the most lovely smile. She has a wonderful sense of humour. She is incredibly good in really bad situations. She's never afraid to answer back or to say what she thinks. She is scrupulously honest. She is an inspiration, always was, always has been.
So you got married, and tell me about your children.
We got married in December 78. Do I mean that?
Could be.
No, 79. Sorry.
79.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes. 70. That's right. I went to France in August 78 to work for an oil company there. And we got married a year later. I'm confusing my 8s and 9s.
But you're still quite young, 23.
I was, yes.
Yeah, so
I was a few weeks short of 24. And she was 22.
and where are you going to set up home?
Paris. That's where I was living.
Oh, wow. Working for an oil company.
I was working for a company called Elf Aquitaine in France. And I worked in France for 5.5 years. And
Gosh.
Caroline was there for 3 of them.
So you both speak French?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Marvellous.
Yes. I
So-
love France.
So you thought, well, things are going well. I have now the rock in my life that is my faith. That's good. I have this beautiful girl who's going to be my wife. I've got this quite fun job, quite interesting.
Oh,
in
I
Paris.
loved my job.
Yeah. So you think I'm going to be a business person?
I thought I was going to run a major company.
Yeah.
That was the ambition.
Burma Oil, here I come. CEO.
Yes. CEO. Absolutely.
Marvellous. And you begin a family quite soon?
Our first baby came along in November 82.
And this was a girl?
Johanna. Yes.
Johanna.
Yeah.
And this is the one you lost, the baby you lost.
She died as a result of a car crash
Gosh, how old
in
was she?
June 83. She was 7 months.
Oh.
And
Oh my goodness! How did this happen? Where were you?
it was we weren't together.
Oh,
We were. It was the day we were moving back to London. Elford sent me back to London, and it was on the motorway. I don't know, 60 miles north of Paris,
oh,
not far from Compiègne, and then she ended up in Lille, I think. Or Arras, in a specialist children's intensive care unit, pediatric intensive care unit, and she died after about 4 days.
oh! I'm so sorry. And you heard you were somewhere else. You were working.
I was working, and I rushed up there, and we went through all that, and it was a moment when God seemed extraordinarily close to both of us. And we both had a deep sense of the presence of God. I remember, Caroline remembers almost, as clear as could be, in her head, presumably rather than aloud, but as clear as could be, at the time of the crash, God saying, I am still in charge. And I remember at the point where she was in her last minutes, embracing her. And she was in my arms. And such a strong sense of the presence of Jesus Christ to put her into his arms, hand her over. That was I can still see that very, 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 very clearly.
Some people who didn't have your faith, faced with such an awful thing, would feel angry and as well as distressed that God could have let a beautiful, innocent, small girl be killed in a road accident, of all things. I mean, we haven't got time for you to explain the sufferings of the world.
No,
and,
even if I understood them.
Yeah.
I don't have... I mean, my short answer is the theological explanations of suffering tend to be pastorally unhelpful, academic. Mm-hmm. The pastoral explanations too often don't say very much about God. And in the little understanding I have of God, of tiny corner, is that on the cross, God himself, Jesus Christ, suffered. And suffering is part of being truly human. Now, that always poses the question, why? And that's where we could spend hours and I could throw out lots of answers, all of which I know the answers to the answers. But there it was.
And you were helped by this, obviously, through this agonizing time. And you've since had lots of other children, haven't you?
5 others.
Well done.
Well, I don't really want to go into the biology, but it's not that difficult. Assuming you don't have a particular problems.
Very good.
We're very fortunate. We've always been, and I'm so aware that this is, a blessing. It's not been a struggle. Yeah. And that is such a good, it could be so easily.
What was the most difficult time in your long and happy marriage?
I think oh golly. The most difficult times together have been, or most testing, challenging times together have been then when Johanna died, after Johanna died, when a year later our eldest son was very ill and needed neurosurgery, what the surgeon described as a perfectly simple bit of infant brain plumbing, which if you're not a neurosurgeon sounds quite complicated. And that was a time was very difficult. And then carrying on from there, very challenging when things have been really difficult at work, particularly in the church. When we've run into some of the failings and cruelties of the church, that's been quite difficult.
Do you pray together? Do you resolve
Yes,
things through prayer together?
We do pray together. Whether we resolve things through prayer, I think it's both together and apart. Caroline is very thoughtful and prayerful. And we talk about things, but I think like a lot of couples, we have to make an effort to talk through the most personal things. It's not that we don't want to, it's just sometimes it's nice to talk about things that are banal rather than profound. But sometimes it's a very good thing to talk about things that are profound.
So professionally, you're beginning your life working in the oil industry. This is going very well. How do you end up as Archbishop of Canterbury? How do you become a clergyman?
Oh, well, you've got to ask someone else that. I've no idea. I mean,
how do you become a clergyman then?
I became a clergyman. I was in the oil industry for 11 years. Mm-hmm. After about 9 years, we were in church one evening and there was someone giving a very good sermon about how they'd ended up, as they were American, as a pastor. And they'd been offered a job at NASA, and then they felt God was saying, don't do that, lead a church. And I was sitting there, and it just, in my head, I sensed, it's very difficult to explain this. It sounds as though one's got a hotline to God, and I don't mean that. But I sensed God was saying, that's what I want you to do. So I said this to Caroline as we drove home from church, and she was, as usual, very calm about it. And we spent 2 years going through the process with the Church of England, which is a pretty strict process.
But you succeeded.
Well, yes. Then the final interview, I went in, it was a lovely, lovely bishop, Bishop of Bradford at the time. He was just a lovely man. And he said to me, now, why do you want to get ordained? And I said, I don't. Because as the period had gone on, my work was going better and better. And I just thought, oh, golly, I don't want to do this. And so, but I couldn't get away from the sense God was calling. And so when I said, I don't, he said, well, what are you doing here? Which was a reasonable question. And I said, I can't get away from it. So he said, all right, what will you do if we turn you down? I said, go back to London and take my wife out to the best dinner I can afford to celebrate. And, he didn't turn me down. Don't trust bishops. I thought I'd sealed my fate.
Of course, by becoming a clergyman, you were taking a big cut in salary because
Yes.
I imagine in the oil industry you were quite well paid.
I was very well paid.
New clergymen are notoriously poorly paid.
Yes.
So did that make a difference, or did you have some private means from...
No.
No?
We had some private means, yes. We did have some private means. But over the few years, we had less and less. So it made a very big difference.
When you began in Nuneaton, that was your first parish when you were sent
Yes.
somewhere? What was, just give me, because we can't sadly go through all your career, give me the best and the most ridiculous and the worst moments of your time as a parish priest.
Well, I was a curate. So, reporting the vicar, still in training, L plates everywhere. I think the best was just the people who were so patient and good with me. And we were just learning, as the bishop said to me, you have spent your life with people who do things. You need to spend time with people who have things done to them. And that was just so wise. And that was how most of my time before I was a bishop was spent.
And you became the Bishop of Durham.
I did.
Goodness.
Lucky me.
And then the next thing you know is you become Archbishop of Canterbury.
15 months later.
Good grief.
Yes, quite. The grief was the churches.
And some people had reservations, I remember at the time.
A lot of people had reservations, and a lot of them might well have been right.
I've been lucky enough. My first ever television interview in 1970 was with the then Archbishop of Canterbury, Michael Ramsey.
Oh, gosh.
And I've had conversations.
How amazing.
Yes, it was amazing. I've had conversations with every Archbishop of Canterbury. So you're my most recent one.
Yes, yeah.
And until about 25 years ago, they all seemed to be happy to be Archbishop of Canterbury. The more recent ones have always regarded it as almost a punishment meted on them by God that they had to go through. How was it for you? What did you achieve? What were the best bits?
Oh,
and the
gosh,
worst bits? Well, they were fun bits.
The fun bits, there was so much that was fun and was lovely and was the most amazing privilege. I mean, so many places as Archbishop, you have to turn up, smile, and walk in a straight line and not be drunk, and people will be pleased to see you. Mm-hmm. A bit like being an MP, I suspect. You know, you turn up at some constituency do, and if you're nice to people and enjoy being, and clearly enjoy them, enjoy being with them, people think, oh, they're so pleased, and that's such fun. Yeah. It's a fairly low bar.
Well, no, it's like being a member of the royal family in a way. There you are, somebody they recognise who has come.
And who is interested in them.
And genuinely interested. Because the more interested you are, the more enjoyable the experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a parallel there. And that was fun, the travelling and going to some really difficult, horrible places, but being able to have an impact. What a privilege.
Did you enjoy doing the big state occasions?
Oh, yes. Well, who wouldn't?
What did you do a royal wedding?
Yes, I did Harry and Meghan.
Very good. Oh, that was an interesting one, because that was at Windsor, wasn't it?
It was at St. George's.
And that was memorable, enjoyable?
Well, you're hardly likely to forget it.
No, I agree.
I mean, come on. It was hugely exciting, nerve-wracking.
Have you got an anecdote from it?
Oh, a very embarrassing one.
Good.
Reception. Uh-huh. Everywhere you looked, there was a face one recognised. And this lady came up to me and said, I'm slightly deaf, particularly in a crowd, and said something. And I said, excuse me. And she repeated it. And the third time, Caroline said, Oprah Winfrey. Oh. And I'd no idea. I'd just gone blank. And of course I knew who she was, but I'd gone blank. Oh, dear. I mean, I wish the floor could swallow me up. It was so embarrassing.
Never mind the actress and the bishop. This is Oprah Winfrey and the Archbishop.
And the Archbishop. So that didn't go very well.
Did you do the late Queen's funeral?
I did indeed. No, the Dean of Westminster Abbey
conducted it.
You preached
I preached. Yeah. And at the Duke of Edinburgh's, did you do that?
Yeah, it was at St. George's during COVID. And I can't remember exactly what I did, but I did something there, yeah.
But it's interesting because these are major figures, and yet it's also families who are grieving. So
do you know, you've just taken the words out of my mouth. The Queen was Queen. So many people thought of her as our Queen. But at the heart of it was a family who'd lost someone they loved and felt that sense of bereavement that every one of the other 500 funerals, 700 funerals I've done, similarly felt that grief. And yet every second of that grieving is observed. I mean, they are the most wonderful, extraordinary, amazing. I know there's all kinds of things. I'm not going to talk about that. I just have such a huge respect for them.
The late Queen also was undoubtedly an even better Christian than you. And she had
That's not setting the bar. That's really rude to the late Queen. That's almost treasonous.
But she had a blessing which probably you don't have, in that I think, because I spoke to her on a number of occasions about this, her faith was so straightforward.
Exactly.
And simple, not in a patronizing simple way,
No.
just in a clear way.
She knew and loved God, and she knew God knew and loved her. And there was no fear of death. She set the most outstanding example.
Give me just one little anecdote about, because you must have spent time with the late Queen, without breaking without any indiscretions. Give me a fun anecdote about the Queen, because I think she was much more fun than many people realize.
Such a sense of humour. First time I met her after I became Archbishop. Well, no, second time, because I had to go and swear homage. But the first time I preached to her. And I'd worked, you might imagine, rather hard on this. And we went into wherever, I think it was the Jerusalem chamber for lunch. I was sitting on her right. And she turned to her left to speak to the Dean of the Abbey. And I didn't realize about all this turning stuff at that point. You know, you do one course with one side and the other course. And I thought, oh my goodness, what did I say? She's turned her back on me. And then she turned round as the second course. She said, well, Archbishop, that was a very good sermon. So I said, oh, thank you, ma'am. The sweat dripping down my neck. And she said, so nice, because I hadn't told her all about her life, because when I was writing the sermon, I thought she probably knows about her life. She said, so nice for a change not to hear one's own obituary. That was a classic dry bit of humour from the late Queen. And so often she was just wonderful.
How long were you Archbishop of Canterbury for?
12 years.
12 is a long, long time. We don't have time, you'll be relieved to know, to go into all the problems of women clergy, women bishops, gay within the church, all of that. Though I imagine those were challenges for you because people have such different views, and you've got to...
And they feel very strongly about it.
And you do your best to walk a steady path in between. Yes. All of that was a bit of a nightmare at times.
You not so much in between. You try and walk a path that says to everyone, I believe you're my brother or sister in Christ and I value you infinitely, but on this, we don't entirely agree.
Yeah. I mean, is the Church of England in an okay place?
It's been worse.
Oh, when was it worse?
Civil War.
Yeah.
Lots of times, I think. I think there've been, stuff happens. Yeah. It goes up and down. The church is God's creation by an act of the Holy Spirit, the global church. But it's also full of human beings who are sinners. And if you put a whole bunch of sinners together, you don't get saints, you get a whole bunch of sinners.
And when you came a cropper, because you were judged to have not done something when you should have done something in terms of safeguarding, that's the essence of it, isn't it?
Yes, it a little more complicated than that, but yes.
But basically, you were perceived to have failed.
I was perceived not to have given enough priority to a group of victims. That is absolutely correct. And when I resigned, I said I felt that I should take personal and institutional responsibility.
This is because I remember reading about it. So many cases were coming across the desk that you did not give the priority to this one when you had known the man involved personally.
Exactly.
And it should have been a red light to you. You should have said, I must do something about that, particularly because I have a personal relationship.
Well, if we go into that, I'm going to sound all defensive and all that kind of thing. I think the important thing was that the church failed and I was the senior bishop. And I mean, in terms of what happened when I heard, the initial perception was that we'd not reported it to the police. In fact, it had been reported to the police, but we found the emails proving that after the report came out and after I'd resigned. I mean, it's just one of those things. You've been through political resignations and stuff. You know what it's like. It's always more complicated than it looks. But the thing that bears down on me and bore down on me then is the suffering of the victims and survivors of that case and of many other cases.
And did you, I take that as read, did you at the time feel angry? And I mean, it's now a little bit further back, so we can talk about it perhaps. How did you feel at the time?
I was hugely shocked. I felt it was very soon, I think it was 11 weeks after I became Archbishop, that crossed my desk. Oh. Together with the business with Peter Ball, if you remember.
Oh yes, the Bishop
just so many cases. And it was the bit I hadn't anticipated. I knew there were all kinds of problems with finance, with church attendance, with divisions over women bishops, and over sexuality. This was something I was not aware of in its absolute, horrendous, appalling abandonment of the people who should have been at the centre of dealing with safeguarding, that is, those who were abused. And over the previous half century, there were just continual cases where the church's reaction had been to cover up, the institutional church's reaction. So, for instance, the affair with John Smythe, he had left the country in 1981, and in Yangon, Zimbabwe, he left there in 2001 or something like that. I've probably got my dates wrong. I haven't got my notes in front of me, obviously. And, you know, in 1981, I wasn't ordained. I was living in France in 2000 when the camp that he was at discovered, which I'd been at and knew him there, discovered what he was doing, and they kept it very much to themselves. And I discovered in 2013, and at first it was one survivor, and then as inquiries went on, it got worse and worse and worse. And I just would sit there and listen and think, how come this was kept secret all that time? How come that nobody said, what about those who were so horribly ill-treated, abused, and then doubly abused by the church or by the camp trustees not going to the police, and then triply abused by, particularly after 2013, the Church of England, led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, me, not being fast enough in finding a response.
When you decided, I've got to go, I've got to take responsibility, did you discuss it first with Caroline, or did you discuss it with God?
I certainly discussed it with both of those, but it was so quick and so bewildering in the sense of, I sort of thought, where's this suddenly blown up from? It had blown up in 5 days. And then, you know, people said you shouldn't have resigned. I was getting emails saying don't resign. And I was getting emails saying you're a poisonous excrescence that crept from under a stone, and really what you deserve is to die. But, I mean, the least that you can do is resign. It all happened so quickly that I think we were all overwhelmed by it and didn't sit down. There wasn't time to sit down and think, okay, what are we going to do?
This explains something to me, what you're saying now, because I'd got the wrong I've only met you a few times, and I got the wrong impression of you, which I've now changed during the course of our conversation. I thought this is obviously an intelligent and successful man who's been good as an archbishop in so many ways, but there's something missing. In fact, I said this to Harriet, our producer, before the program. I said, there's something missing. He sometimes can't read the room. There's something there. Maybe it's to do with his childhood, not having proper parental relations. He misses something. Because in the immediate aftermath of that, I watched the speech you gave in the House of Lords.
Oh, that was terrible.
And I thought, this man is not reading the room. Now you've explained much more of this to me, the 5 days, the speed with which the decision was made, the sense of wanting to justify yourself. It didn't work.
No,
are you hearing what I'm saying?
I agree entirely. It didn't work. As a Lord's speech, I cringe every time I think of it. I'm so ashamed of it. But because it was not right by the survivors.
Yeah.
But I just look back and think, I was completely in shock at the time. No, I didn't read the room. And I'm not sure I still do. I mean, all I know is that cruelty was doled out to survivors, and God's church didn't respond properly over half a century or more in numerous cases, not innumerable, numerous. And that when I was in post, I didn't respond adequately either. There's reasons, but no excuses. I don't think one can be merciful to oneself on this.
Oh.
I think one has to say, if you're the boss, which I wasn't. I mean, technically, I'm not the boss. You know, as Archbishop of Canterbury, one way to make everyone laugh is to give an order. I mean, because nobody does anything in response to that.
But you were the figurehead.
I was, well, you're the senior bishop.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, it's the old thing. You have to be responsible. The buck stops there.
How long did it take you to recover from it, in the sense of...
Oh, I haven't yet.
Oh.
No, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Does it get better?
Yes, it does.
Is there an upside to it? Is there?
No.
I mean, you talked about redemption earlier. Is there a sense of catharsis? It's over now. I've done it. I let go. I did the right thing ultimately.
Well, I'm not sure I did, but you know, I'm not sure
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, you know, I'll stand before God as my judge, and then I will know. It's not for me to be merciful to myself or forgive myself. It's for me to commit it into the hands of God, seek his forgiveness, and to come to terms with the issues of these sorts of things caused with so many people. Like you come across a lot of people like this who've gone through similar events in one way or another in the public eye, and you'll have seen it in politics. There's depression, there's guilt, there's anger, there's all kinds of emotions.
Have you sought help beyond Caroline and God?
Yes. I've been seeing a psychotherapist for a considerable period of time.
And is proving helpful?
And a psychiatrist.
And is it proving helpful?
Very helpful.
Good.
Yes, it's not about saying, oh, it didn't matter, or anything like that, quite the reverse. It's about saying, how does one live with such a failure?
We've come almost to the end. 3 quick questions. I want you just to say what comes into your head. You've had this extraordinary roller coaster life. I mean, quite remarkable. A moment of joy. Just a moment of joy. What comes into your head?
Strange one. It could be any. One refugee camp, Eastern Congo, about 2016. At the end of walking around the camp, seeing people with a local friend of mine, Congolese, crowd of women. And the local bishop says, say something to encourage them. And I'm thinking, what? And I started by saying, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. My old thing, archbishops say something while they're thinking about what they need to say. And they began to sing one of the songs of the East African revival, just spontaneously, because Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That was a moment of joy.
That's marvellous.
Very
moving.
I thought, that is extraordinary. That's God, not me. And then, what was the second one?
A moment of sadness. And you've told us already about the death of your daughter, which really, there couldn't be anything sadder, except there was that. Yes, go on. Maybe tell me.
If we leave out what we were just talking about and the last,
of course,
the resignation, that's in a category all of its own. A moment of sadness, that same local clergyman in East Africa, in Eastern Congo, who was by then a bishop of Goma, the first bishop of Goma, a man of absolute courage and a very close friend, getting a series of WhatsApps from him as he showed the signs of COVID, declined, and then an hour before he died, him sending me a WhatsApp saying, please educate my children. And thinking we've just lost one of our greatest of our 1,000 bishops.
You mentioned there the sadness of your resignation. When the moment came to resign, who do you tell? Was it the
king?
The king. You had to.
You have to get permission.
And then you just send a letter in via the secretary saying, "I resign."
Well, actually, it was done rather because of the speed. I think I can't quite remember, to be honest. I think it was done verbally. I think I rang the principal private secretary and said.
And then what did you do in the evening?
I can't remember. Stunned.
You blanked it. Well, good. I'm glad you're on the road to recovery. I've loved our conversation. You have led a remarkable life. Tell me what you've learnt, what life has taught you, Justin.
Well, I'm going to, you've got what used to be called ABC 105, Sarah being 106.
Very good. The ABC means Archbishop of Canterbury, 105. Yes. You're 105. So from St. Anselm, who was the first?
No, St. Augustine of Canterbury. It's
St.
597.
597. So you were the 105th.
I was the 105th. Sarah's 106th. As one of the children said, and then we got ABCD, which Archbishop of Canterbury is dog. And then actually we have a daughter whose name begins with E. And so she said, well, I'm ABCDE. I'm the Archbishop of Canterbury's daughter, X. And what have I learned? If you're going to have an Archbishop of Canterbury, you're going to get quite a bit of God. And this is absolutely true. What I've learned is God is good. God is faithful.
And I think you're good.
Oh, well, as Abraham Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people all the time.
Well, you've certainly succeeded with me. It's been a most wonderful Rosebud. Thank you very much, Justin.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
I've enjoyed it hugely.
Gyles, it's a great privilege to be on it. Thank you.